There is something happening in homes across the world right now, and almost nobody is talking about it. People are choosing to disappear, not into depression, not into failure, into something the world has taught you to fear: solitude. And if you have been feeling the pull to cancel plans, to stay in, to close your door and refuse to explain yourself, then what I am about to tell you will change everything. Because staying home is not what they told you it was. It is not isolation. It is intelligence recognizing itself. And I am not saying this to make you feel special. Science says it too. Studies show that people with higher intelligence are 2.5 times more likely to seek solitude. Not because they hate people, but because their minds require something most social interactions cannot provide: depth, complexity, authentic exchange. Schopenhauer observed this centuries ago. A high degree of intellect tends to make a man unsocial. Not antisocial, unsocial. There is a difference, because staying home is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It is the only place where you stop losing pieces of yourself. And by the end of this, you will understand why the smartest minds in history fortified their solitude like a castle, and why they were right. Let me explain what is really happening when you choose to stay home. You see, we have been sold a story that says human beings need constant social interaction to be healthy. That connection equals happiness. That the more people in your life, the richer your existence becomes. And for most of history, this story made sense. When survival depended on the tribe, when your safety required cooperation, when being alone actually meant danger, then yes, staying close to others was wisdom. But something has changed. We no longer live in that world. Yet the programming remains. The belief that something is wrong with you if you prefer your own company. The assumption that choosing solitude means you are broken, damaged, afraid. But here is what they don't tell you. Here is what Schopenhauer understood centuries ago, what modern psychology is only now beginning to confirm. The people who seek solitude are not running away from life. They are running toward something far more valuable. They are running toward themselves. Think about the last time you went out. Really think about it. Not the highlight reel you might post later. Not the performance of having a good time, but the actual experience. The conversations that felt like reading from a script you had already memorized. The laughter that required effort. The smile you wore like a uniform. And then, driving home afterward, that strange emptiness. That feeling of having spent 3 hours with people and somehow ending up more alone than when you started. You were there, but you were not present. They were talking, but nobody was saying anything. And underneath it all, this exhaustion, this peculiar depletion that has nothing to do with how late you stayed out or how much you drank. It is the exhaustion of being someone you are not. Schopenhauer called this losing 3/4 of ourselves to be like other people. 75%. Think about that for a moment. Imagine taking everything you are, everything authentic and raw and true about your inner world, and cutting away 3/4 of it. What remains? A quarter, a fragment, a performance. And this is what we call socializing. This is what we have been taught to believe is connection. But here is the truth that nobody wants to admit. Most human interaction is not connection at all. It is theater. Two people each performing a version of themselves they think the other wants to see, each monitoring their words, editing their thoughts, calculating the impression they are making. And we call this friendship, we call this community, we call this love. But it is exhausting because you cannot rest when you are performing. You cannot breathe when you are holding a pose. You cannot be yourself when the cost of authenticity is rejection. So you stay in character. You smile through the fatigue. You agree when you want to disagree. You laugh at jokes that are not funny. You pretend to care about things that bore you to tears. And slowly, so slowly you barely notice, you forget who you actually are. The voice in your head starts sounding like everyone else's voice. Your desires begin to look like their desires. Your life becomes a poor copy of the life they told you to want. Until one day, you are sitting in your own home, in the silence, and you realize something terrifying. You do not recognize yourself anymore. This is what constant social engagement does. It does not connect you to others. It disconnects you from yourself. Now, let me be very clear about something. I am not talking about genuine connection. I am not dismissing the rare and beautiful moments when two human beings actually meet each other, without masks, without performance, without agenda. Those moments exist, but they are rare, far more rare than we want to admit. Carl Jung once said that loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Read that again. Unable to communicate the things that seem important. How many of your relationships allow you to speak about what actually matters to you? How many conversations go beneath the surface? How many people in your life know what keeps you awake at 3 in the morning? Most of us are surrounded by people and yet completely alone, because we have confused proximity with intimacy. We have mistaken company for connection. We have convinced ourselves that being around others means we are not lonely. But the deepest loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the presence of people who do not see you. And this is where staying home becomes an act of rebellion. Because when you stop going out, when you stop performing, when you stop pretending, something extraordinary happens. You stop being lonely. I know this sounds backwards. The world has taught you that solitude equals loneliness. That being alone is something to be feared, avoided, medicated away. But people who have truly learned to be alone will tell you something different. They will tell you that the loneliest they ever felt was in a crowded room, and the most connected they ever felt was in silence, by themselves. Because real solitude is not the absence of others. It is the presence of yourself. And for most people, that is terrifying. Schopenhauer observed that ordinary minds cannot tolerate being alone because they cannot tolerate their own company. The silence is unbearable. The stillness feels like death. So they fill every moment. Music, television, social media, calls, texts, plans, anything to avoid being left with themselves. Because deep down, they suspect something. They suspect that if they stop moving, stop consuming, stop distracting, they will have to face what they have been running from. The questions they have avoided, the feelings they have suppressed, the truth about who they have become. Alan Watts understood this perfectly. He said the modern world confuses activity with reality. We think if we are busy, we are alive. If we are moving, we are progressing. If we are constantly doing, we must be accomplishing something. But Watts saw through this. He saw that we are terrified of silence because in silence there is no script, no role to play, no performance to maintain. Just you and the vast emptiness you have been trained to fear. And so we run. We fill every moment with noise, with stimulation, with other people's voices, because hearing our own has become unbearable. And that truth is often uncomfortable. It reveals the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. It exposes the desires you have denied. It brings up the dreams you abandoned. It shows you all the ways you have betrayed yourself to fit in. This is why people fear silence. Not because it is empty, but because it is full of everything you have been trying not to see. But here is what happens when you stop running, when you close your door, when you turn off the noise, when you sit with yourself, really sit with yourself, without distraction or escape. At first, it is uncomfortable. The mind races, the body fidgets. Every instinct screams at you to do something, anything, to break the silence. This is withdrawal. You have been addicted to stimulation, to validation, to the constant input of other people's thoughts and opinions and energy. And now you are cutting off the supply. It feels wrong. It feels lonely. It feels like something is missing. But if you stay with it, if you push through the discomfort, something shifts. The noise in your head begins to quiet. The tension in your body starts to release. And slowly, very slowly, you begin to hear it, your own voice. Not the voice that sounds like your parents or your friends or the culture. Not the voice that has been trained to say the right things, to think the acceptable thoughts. But your voice, the one that has been buried beneath years of conditioning and performance and fear. And this voice knows things. It knows what you actually want, not what you have been told to want. It knows what genuinely interests you, not what impresses others. It knows who you really are, beneath all the masks and roles and identities you have constructed. This is what Schopenhauer meant when he said a man can only be himself while he is alone. Because freedom is not just about doing what you want. It is about knowing what you want. And you cannot know what you want when everyone else is constantly telling you. In solitude, you stop being shaped by external forces. You stop molding yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You stop performing versions of yourself that require exhausting effort to maintain. You just are. And in that being, you discover something remarkable. You are enough. Not the accomplished version of you, not the successful version, or the impressive version, or the version that makes other people comfortable. Just you. Raw, unfiltered, authentic. And this is power, real power. Not the power to impress or control or manipulate others, but the power to be yourself regardless of who is watching. The power to think your own thoughts without needing approval. The power to feel your own feelings without needing validation. This is what staying home cultivates. Not weakness, not avoidance, not fear, but self-sufficiency, spiritual self-sufficiency. Schopenhauer argued that all suffering comes from wanting things outside ourselves. We suffer because we need validation. We suffer because we crave approval. We suffer because our happiness depends on circumstances beyond our control. But the person who has learned to be alone has broken this cycle. They do not need your approval because they approve of themselves. They do not need your validation because they know their own worth. They do not need your presence because they have discovered the richness of their own company. And the world hates this. The world needs you to be needy. It needs you to crave connection, so you will buy products that promise it. It needs you to fear loneliness, so you will stay engaged with platforms that exploit it. It needs you to feel inadequate, so you will keep performing, keep consuming, keep participating. But the moment you discover that you do not actually need what they are selling, you become dangerous. You become free. And freedom is the one thing the system cannot tolerate. Now, I want to address something directly. Some of you are thinking, but is this not selfish? Should I not contribute to my community? Is staying home not just giving up on humanity? And here is what I want to say to that. You cannot give what you do not have. If you are depleted, fragmented, lost in performance and pretense, what exactly are you offering others? A shallow version of yourself, a performance, an exhausted echo of what you could be. No, the most generous thing you can do is become whole. And you cannot become whole while constantly giving pieces of yourself away. Think of it this way. Every hour you spend performing for others is an hour stolen from becoming yourself. Every conversation where you edit your truth is a moment of self-betrayal. Every social obligation you fulfill out of guilt rather than genuine desire is another brick in the prison you are building. Staying home is not abandonment. It is cultivation. You are cultivating the self that will eventually have something real to offer. You are developing the depth that shallow interactions can never touch. You are building the strength to stand in your truth when everyone around you is still pretending. This takes time. It takes silence. It takes solitude. And yes, it takes courage, because the world will question you. They will ask what is wrong. They will suggest you are depressed. They will imply you are missing out. But you are not missing out. You are tuning in to something far more valuable than another forgettable evening of small talk and performance. You are tuning into yourself. Schopenhauer believed that genius sees targets that no one else can see. That the greatest contributions come not from following the crowd, but from spending time alone with your own thoughts. Einstein worked in solitude. Newton worked in solitude. Every great artist, every true philosopher, every genuine innovator knew this secret. Da Vinci retreated into his studio for weeks. Nietzsche walked alone through mountains. Tesla worked through nights in isolation. Not because they were antisocial recluses, but because they understood something fundamental. That the noise of the world is not where genius is born. Genius is born in the quiet, in the space between thoughts, in the stillness that most people cannot tolerate for even 5 minutes. Schopenhauer was right when he said, talent hits a target no one else can hit. Genius hits a target no one else can see. And those targets only become visible in the silence. That the most valuable thing you can do is not to be everywhere, doing everything, performing for everyone, but to be still, to be quiet, to be alone with the vast universe inside yourself. Because that is where everything begins, not in the noise and chaos of constant social engagement, but in the silence of your own mind, in the stillness of your own presence, in the freedom of your own company. This is what staying home really is. It is not hiding from the world. It is finally meeting yourself, really meeting yourself, not the version you perform for others, Not the role you play at work or with family or with friends, but the actual living, breathing consciousness that you are. And when you meet this self, when you really spend time with it, something profound happens. You realize you have been looking for yourself in all the wrong places. You have been searching for yourself in other people's opinions, in accomplishments, in relationships, in experiences. But you were never lost. You were just buried beneath expectations and obligations and the weight of trying to be everyone except yourself. And staying home gives you the space to excavate, to dig through the layers, to remove what was never yours, to uncover what was always there. This is not lazy. This is not antisocial. This is not giving up. This is the hardest work there is. The work of becoming real. And the world needs real people far more than it needs more performers. So if you are feeling the pull towards solitude, listen to it. If you are tired of the noise, honor that fatigue. If you would rather stay home than go out, do not apologize for it. You are not broken. You are not antisocial. You are not failing at life. You are succeeding at something far more important. You are finding yourself. And in a world that profits from your self-abandonment, that is the most revolutionary act you can commit. Stay home. Close your door. Turn off the noise and discover what has been waiting for you all along in the silence. Yourself, whole, authentic, free. This is not the end of your life. This is the beginning. The beginning of actually living, not performing, not pretending, not losing yourself to be like everyone else, but living as yourself, finally, truly, completely. And that is worth far more than any party you will ever attend.